Okay, the name of this video is Flax for Chumps? And the reason I'm making a video about flax is people keep asking me about flax and telling me how great it is. And I'm like, well, why do you say that? Where's the evidence it's so great? And I did search around, and there are a lot of papers that are positive on flax. It's tough, though, to know to take them seriously because so many of them are industry funded. And I also know Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn speaks about flax. But I searched his site. I'll get to what I found at his site in just a moment. But for example, I always ask the question, it kind of reminds me of soy. Soy has estrogens off the charts, super high. But flax has estrogens even way higher than soy does. So I asked myself, why does it have so much estrogenic chemicals? Does soy or flax have breasts? Does soy or flax have a Virginia? Last time I checked, I didn't see any. So you have to ask yourself, well, why would it have such high estrogenic chemicals? And we talked about this before. There's some plants they want to be eaten. The bear eats a berry, walks a mile down the path, defecates, and you got a new berry bush, okay? But some plants don't want to be eaten. And a plant that doesn't want to be eaten by insects, for example, or other animals, it'll fight back with chemicals. And if you look at lignans are one of the major chemicals found in soy. They're like pesticides, okay, insecticides. Just as the soy estrogenic chemicals are insecticides to make the animal that eats it infertile, to damage the thyroid function of the animal that eats it. So these are ways that the plant can fight back when it doesn't want to be eaten. So for these levels of estrogens, thousands of times higher than other foods. Look at this. So here's the level of estrogenic chemicals in soy compared to other plants, super high, thousands of times higher than other plants. Here's the estrogenic levels in flax, and these are even dramatically higher than soy, okay? They're off the charts high. They're the highest estrogenic foods. And as far as I'm concerned, anything that estrogenic, I would expect a little more from it. Maybe it will, do my laundry, cook for me, please me in bed. I mean, that's a lot of estrogen, okay? So here's a paper showing the insecticidal activity of lignans in other plants. And now let's look at the macronutrients in flax. It's very high in fat. It's 58% of calories from fat. That's a lot of fat, okay? I would never eat a food. I want to keep my total fat less than 10%, probably in the ballpark of around 5%. Okay, so I would not be too thrilled about eating a 60% fat food. And then it's estrogenic off the charts, so that's two negatives. It's also high in protein. It's like 14% of calories from protein, and that's not super high. It's not like a meat. Salmon's 50-50, 50% protein, 50% fat, but that's still high compared to most plant foods. I eat a lot of sweet potatoes, 4.5% of calories from protein. White rice, about 7-8% of calories from protein. Regular potatoes, 8% of calories from protein. Fruits tend to be very low in protein. I eat a lot of fruits. So that would be like the highest protein food that I eat other than beans. Beans are kind of high, but I like to keep the rest of my meal pretty low in protein to compensate for the beans. My overall dietary amount of protein is typically about 10%. If I had cancer or something like that, I would want it even lower. The other thing is, I don't hear Esselstyn talking about organics, nor do I hear a lot of the people in the vegan community talking about organics. I actually think it's important to eat only organic. I've talked about the pesticides and herbicides in non-organic foods. Now here's another thing. This is some government thing. I think it's from Canada, what they recommend for pesticide management on flax plants. Okay, and they recommend some pretty powerful stuff. Organophosphate pesticides like malathion. They talk about these other ones in here, pyrethroids, etc. Okay, so what I'm saying is if you're eating a flax plant that's not organic, there's a pretty concerning chance it might have these insecticides on it, which doesn't sound good to me. Now here is Dr. Esselstyn. He's the best results in the world for prevention and treatment of coronary artery disease. And he has been saying that he'll sometimes eat this flax. I don't know exactly how often he eats it. I specifically looked for a video that said Esselstyn and flax, and I could not find one on YouTube. Then I went to Dr. Esselstyn's, I've never seen him write an article on it. I went to his website, dresselstyn.com, and he did say something about you could eat flax or chia, but it should be ground up. He says avoid flaxseed oil, but There's nothing saying that it has any particular benefit. I looked up the papers on it. Some say, it does have a benefit, that it's going to lower cholesterol a little bit, lower blood glucose a little bit. It's got fiber in it. It's got the omega-3 precursor fatty acid, alpha-linolenic acid. Okay, so, but you don't really need that. You get plenty of omega-3s without seeking it out in flax. And then here's another thing. It contains cyanogen glycosides. So basically it contains like a cyanide-like precursor. And I don't know about you, but this does not sound very appealing to me. It has a cyanide-like chemical in it. It's got estrogens off the chart. It's very high in fat, and it's kind of high in protein. Okay, some other foods that have some cyanide in them are almonds. That's why I don't eat almonds. And then, there's Dr. Greger. Here's Dr. Greger making a video about, he says that basically the cyanide in flax is no big deal. He says, look, there's never a report of a person having acute toxicity and dying from eating flax. Okay, great. And he says, oh, it's not a big deal. The amounts are small. Our body has some ability to detoxify cyanide. It's an organic molecule, a carbon connected to a nitrogen, so it can react with other organic chemicals and it can be biodegradable. And cooking will decrease it. But a lot of these flax things we're eating are not cooked, and cooking doesn't remove all of the cyanide. And I don't know about you, but I don't want any cyanide. I don't want any cyanide I can avoid. I will avoid it. And, there's always the Nietzsche quote, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. However, I don't think that's necessarily applicable, because just because something doesn't kill you doesn't mean it can't hurt you. I sprained my ankle. It didn't kill me. It didn't make me stronger. It made my ankle hurt, okay? So I'm not so eager for that. And, I'm not so sure about Greger's judgment on cyanide. He recommends that people take cyanocobalamin. That's more cyanide accumulating in your body. I don't know how much it accumulates. I don't want any. Cyanide's an inhibitor of mitochondrial electron transport. I don't want any. I worry it's just going to have some type of cumulative effect to damage mitochondria and cause fatigue. It doesn't sound promising to me. He recommends people eat 1 tablespoon of flax every day. Why would I want to eat 1 tablespoon of estrogenic fat? My impression of what's going on in the world right now is every day of my life, there's always somebody trying to feminize me. And I'm sick of it, okay? Oh, have some soy. No, take your soy and shove it up your ass, okay? Men and women are the same. Nobody knows the difference between a man and a woman. No, I know perfectly well the difference between a man and a woman, and we're not the same, okay? All this feminizing BS, I don't like it. Why is there aluminum and metalloestrogen in tap water? These things are ubiquitous. They're subsidized and they're pushed on people. All these things that are anti-testosterone, anti-sperm production, anti-masculinity, okay? I would not, if it was a medicine to save my life, sure, I'd consider it. But just for the heck of it, am I going to eat estrogenic fat with cyanide in it? No, thank you. They recommend avoid flax in pregnant women because it has estrogenic hormonal effects. Okay, so that's something that it does have. Here's another paper, flaxseed, developmental stage influences on rat mammary gland structures. So lifetime or gestation, lactation exposure to 10% flaxseed caused endocrine changes, earlier puberty, so it affects puberty, and it caused longer menstrual cycles. Okay, so those are clear estrogenic secondary sex biological effects. Also, people who ate flax, in this particular study, they did get some lowering of their LDL cholesterol and their total cholesterol, but they had increased amounts of urinary thiocyanides. And in the words of Dr. Greger, that's a good thing. He says, your body is detoxifying the cyanide. Well, rather than have my body detoxify the cyanide, I would rather just not eat it. I can detoxify by not eating it. How about that? What kind of crap is this? That, oh, it's no big deal. Have a little cyanide. How about get rid of the cyanide? Why eat it at all? I don't want any cyanide, okay? I think the whole logic is stupid. Just because it doesn't kill you doesn't mean it's good for you. The best thing to do is avoid anything with cyanide in it to the extent that's possible. Flax will also increase triglycerides in the blood. So it's increasing triglycerides in the blood. Well, guess what? Triglycerides are another atherosclerosis risk factor. So, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul again. Yeah, you might lower your cholesterol a little bit with this stuff, but you are then raising your triglycerides. So I don't know how much of an effect it's going to have. Probably not much. Postprandial hyperlipidemia. Postprandial hyperlipidemia is showing increases in serum triglycerides is associated with the development of atherosclerosis. So here's another paper. High triglycerides in the blood will increase blood viscosity. So if you're increasing blood viscosity, that means you're increasing atherosclerosis, like, the atherothrombosis theory of Dr. Sloop, which I've talked about before. High blood viscosity causes high blood pressure, damages arterial walls, and leads to atherosclerosis. So that's an atherogenic effect. Not good. It's really going to now, we know it's got cyanides in it. We know that it's highly estrogenic and has secondary sex effects. We know that it increases blood viscosity and blood lipids, so it's probably going to cause some hypertension. It's super fat, meaning it's going to put you at increased risk for weight gain, 60% fat food. I'm not liking this. I'm not liking it at all. It sounds to me like flax is for chumps. If somebody can come up with a legitimate paper that's not industry funded, I'll take a look at it, but this is not impressing me. This logic to me is seeming pretty screwed up. Here's another paper, negative effect of flax on thyroid development. Okay, and that's pretty characteristic of estrogenic chemicals. They tend to have a harmful effect on, estrogenic endocrine functions. They tend to have a harmful effect on thyroid. Very many of them do. And if you remember the Seralini paper, the paper that I just talked about recently, the vast majority of estrogenic chemicals also have a neurotoxic effect. Okay, so, and perhaps this one does with a cyanogenic mitochondrial inhibition mechanism. I'm not liking this at all. Okay, and here's another paper of flax causing gynecomastia. It's just a case report, but still, that's not encouraging. Another secondary sex characteristic paper. Here's maternal flaxseed having a damaging effect on the offspring. Flaxseed during lactation did affect lipid profile, adipose tissue, and sexual function in adulthood, probably due to hyperestrogen effects. Okay, I don't like the sound of that. Here's a paper from the NIH, and they say flaxseed might be unsafe for pregnant women because it'll have hormonal effects. It might increase the chance of premature birth. Okay, that doesn't sound good. Anything that's doing that, plus even Gregor's talking about only limit it to 1 teaspoon. Okay. All of this stuff is not sounding good to me. I don't see any reason at this point why anybody should eat any flax.